All right, guys, so let's dive right into this. Thank you very much for everybody for coming. This is very, very casual. This isn't like a formal presentation style, anything like that. So as I'm going through these slides and, giving you guys information, jump in with questions. Put them in the chat, shout them out, whatever you want to do. So I wanted to put this together. I'll go through here in a second what exactly I do in my business. But there's something that I'm seeing here in Florida that I don't know. I just feel like a lot of people are missing it, especially real estate agents who we partner up with all the time in my business. And I just kind of want to shine the light on what we're seeing in our business, particularly, and what we're actually doing to strum up business. And I think hopefully you guys will be able to get some value from this, and we'll just have a conversation about it. But there's something happening in Florida, when it comes to not just pre-foreclosures, but people just falling at least 1 to 2 months behind on their mortgage. It's happening, and a lot of people just aren't talking about it. A little bit of background on exactly what I do. My company is Universal Short Sales. I founded the company in 2019. We process short sales literally from start to finish across the country. And then obviously our biggest market is here in Florida. It's where I live. It's where most of my network is. So essentially what that means is, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with short sales, but the process is long, drawn out, chaotic, and very, very complicated. So I created a system. I have a full-time staff, and we literally streamline the short sale from start to finish. So you, as a listing agent, you would bring your short sale listing to us. We would essentially partner on the deal. You could focus on everything, just doing what you do best: listing, negotiating, selling, cold calling, growing your business. And then you let my company and I take care of, all of the crazy, chaotic back end stuff on the short sale and get it done. And then if you have investors, or if any of you are investors, we have a fee-based service as well, where if you want to buy a short sale deal, you could bring that to us, and it's a $10,000 flat fee on the HUD, or 3% of the purchase price, and we only get paid when it closes. It's a pay at close model, so it's a win-win for everybody. So what exactly is a pre-foreclosure, just for anybody who's not familiar? So pre-foreclosure in Florida. Now it guys, could everyone just mute yourself? I'm trying to go through and mute everybody here.
Try it out and have cash.
Mute. There we go. So a pre-foreclosure typically occurs at around the 90-day mark in Florida on average. Sometimes it's a little after if the banks are backed up like they are now, but typically once a homeowner reaches the 90-day mark or so of not paying the bank their mortgage, the lender officially files a motion to foreclose against them. So they send them a letter, a big fancy packet through the mail, and they're essentially telling the homeowner, hey, we gave you every last chance, and now you've left us no choice. We have to start the foreclosure process on you. Now, Florida is what's called a judicial foreclosure state. So the process is very long and drawn out. But again, the pre-foreclosure is the last step the bank has to go through before they actually take the homeowner's property back, take the deed back, and then auction it off at a public auction, typically online these days. So what exactly are we seeing right now in the state of Florida? So as we speak right now, there are over 35,000 active pre-foreclosures. That's a wild number. Let that sink in. 35,000. And think about this. Those are just the people who are 90 plus days behind that the bank is actually filing on. That doesn't count, number one, all the people the bank is super behind the ball, who they're 90 plus days, but they're just, behind the 8 ball and they haven't filed yet. There's a lot of those. It's very backed up. And then it also doesn't count the people who are behind on their mortgage payments, but they're not in pre-foreclosure yet. Maybe they're 30 days behind. They just missed their first payment. Maybe they're 60 days behind and they're getting closer. And then there's a lot of people, which this doesn't account for either, that are just hanging on by a thread. You know, I'm sure you guys have clients all the time that you see that are making their mortgage payments, but it's paycheck to paycheck. It is very, very scary. And they're literally one job loss or hardship away from not being able to make it. So again, that 35,000 number, that is only active pre-foreclosures. It does not count any other form of mortgage delinquency. Florida is leading the country by far, you know, when it comes to gross pre-foreclosure volume. I don't know if you guys were aware of this or if you're seeing it in your market. Maybe you're not paying close attention to it, but it's here and it's happening. It's here and it's happening, and you know, it's something we have to pay close attention to. Now, where would the opportunity be? So, you know, we were kind of just talking about it a little bit, you know, before the webinar started. Florida is one of the hottest states in the country. Every county in Florida, even the counties that, you know, we were just talking about before, you know, counties that used to have no traffic at all, now you're starting to see some traffic. Hundreds of people are moving to the state a day. You know, it's all over the news, people moving to Florida. You know, the real estate market is still super hot, multiple bids, you know, over asking price. So what's happening, most of your competitors, because of this, they are completely ignoring the distressed side of the market, completely overlooking it. I see this every day. So what do I mean by the distressed side? Again, people who are behind on their mortgage payments. It is completely getting ignored, although it's happening. And I just showed you the stats. Florida is number one in the entire country by far when it comes to mortgage delinquency. So I'm of the belief, you guys as a real estate, you know, as realtors, if you pivot and really start to focus on serving and helping these sellers who are struggling to pay their payments, there is unbelievably massive opportunity for you now, especially coming into this year. And then in my opinion, it's going to be a major problem for the next 3 to 10 years. It really is. It's going to be a major problem. Property taxes are increasing in a lot of counties. We were just talking about before the webinar, property insurance is skyrocketing. People are struggling to make their mortgage payments. Okay. Now, another thing too, when I say pivot, that doesn't mean drop your current business model and just focus solely on serving pre-foreclosures. You don't have to do that. You could just start to brand yourself and market yourself as a mortgage delinquent expert, and then your listing gross listing volume will skyrocket because you have you're already in your own lane of the business that you're doing, and then you're simply adding a symbiotic business, which is pre-foreclosure listings. We have a question in the chat here. Valerie said, how would we know about it? So I'm actually going to go over, I think it's a slide or two after this. So I'm going to give you guys 3 really good sources of how you can go and pull these lists. And then also, Valerie, there's really good news sources where you could specifically follow distressed real estate. So one of them is ATOM data. I'll actually put it in the chat here. ATOM data. Okay. There's DS News. I read this one a lot. There's Housing Wire. These are just a couple of news sites that focus specifically on distressed real estate, and they give news, stats, etc. And following these will be really beneficial because a lot of the other, you know, mainstream real estate sites, they don't really focus on it as much. So also, if any of you guys have a system called PropStream, I don't know if you guys use that to pull your leads. You could actually follow in real time how many active pre-foreclosures are in all the counties that you guys are serving. So that's a really, really good tool too. I actually talk about PropStream in a little bit here. So great question though. So one thing I want to drill home with you guys too. I don't know if you're familiar with mortgage modifications. So, but I'm going to go over exactly what they are in a slide here. But if you learn, this is an unbelievable skill for realtors. If you learn how to take a mortgage modification lead and use my 3-step process, which I'm actually going to give you in a second here, and convert that lead into listings, you can create over the course of time a massive pipeline of these listing leads. And the really cool thing about mortgage mods, you can't go online anywhere and purchase a mortgage modification listing list. Like there's no list sources that provide them. This is you organically building this list. It's very effective. And I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of people in the state of Florida, a lot, that are currently in mortgage modification applications. So let's dive into mortgage mods. So essentially okay, so let me start here. As you guys are prospecting and you're talking to people who are behind on their mortgage, okay, and we have some questions here. No, it's just an AI bot. Okay. As you guys are prospecting to pre-foreclosures, you're going to talk to a lot of people who actually want to stay in their home. Even though they're behind on their mortgage, they want to keep their home. A lot of times they have an emotional attachment to it. Maybe it's the first ever investment property they purchased. Whatever the case is, they do not want to sell. They want to work it out with the bank and stay in their house. So the lender lets them apply for what's called a mortgage modification. What a modification is the homeowner is going to submit their pay stubs, bank statements, all of their financials into the bank. It's a very, very long and drawn out process, similar to a short sale. Once the bank has everything they need, they're going to review it. And if the bank deems either number one, that the homeowner's income has increased, or their expenses have decreased, one of those two, they're going to grant them the mortgage modification approval. And all the mortgage mod is, it's a lifeline. It's a second chance to pay your mortgage. So the bank is going to say, okay, Bob, you haven't been paying us, but we see you just got this promotion at your job. You could prove to us that you're making a little bit more money. So here you go. We're going to give you a second chance to pay us. We're going to give you brand new mortgage terms, and then we'll see how this goes. So that's essentially what a mortgage mod is in a nutshell. Now, the amazing opportunity here as listing agents, 99.9% of your competition, they are calling pre-foreclosures. When the pre-foreclosure homeowner tells them, hey, Bob, thanks, but no thanks. I'm actually working it out with the bank. I want to keep my house. They hang up the phone and then they just move on to the next lead because it's a dead lead. They don't want to sell. I am here today to tell you guys to stop doing that. I have a 3-step process. We literally have it down to a science on how to convert this dead lead, essentially, that wants to stay in their house into a listing. Okay? Because here's the thing. A very high percentage of these people, they're going to get denied by the bank. It's a sad reality, but it's just a reality. Unless the bank, as I said before, unless their lender sees, hey, your income increased or your expenses have decreased, they are going to deny their mortgage mod application. And then the homeowner is going to be forced to sell the property. Okay. So what you want to do, step number one, when you're on the phone with them, you want to, number one, don't hang up the phone, stay on. You want to build rapport and be supportive. Write that second part down because that's super important. You want to build rapport with them and be supportive. What I mean by be supportive is what a lot of agents try to do, and you never ever want to do this. What they try to do is they try to convince the homeowner to list their property with them and sell it versus doing the mortgage mod application. Terrible idea. Do not do it. Well, all you're going to do is you're going to distance yourself from the seller because they're not going to trust you. You're just going to come off as a self-serving real estate agent who doesn't care about their situation and just wants to make a commission. Okay. You do not want to do that. Instead, do the complete opposite. Literally support them trying to keep their house. Literally support them, congratulate them, tell them you think it's awesome and amazing and you hope it works out. So that's step one as the conversation is flowing. Step number two, you're going to end the call with permission to follow up during the modification process. As I said before, I'm going to say it again because it's very important to understand. The mortgage modification process, the application, guys, it takes forever, months. It could take months to be completed. There's a lot of documents and a lot of review that has to take place. So get permission. Step number two, you're going to get permission to follow up with them throughout their entire process. Now, as long as you did step number one correctly and you built rapport, you let the conversation flow, you were supportive that they're trying to keep their house, step number two, almost 100% of the time, they will give you permission to follow up with them throughout the process. So really, it should sound something like this. Hey, John, listen, it was great talking with you. Again, I wish you luck. I hope everything with your modification application works out. Just in case it doesn't, just in case the bank doesn't want to work with you, I know they're a pain in the ass sometimes. Would you mind? I would love to keep in touch with you throughout the process, just in case you need anything. And then we could be your plan B. Does that sound good? And then, like I said, because you're building rapport with them, they'll be like, absolutely, Bob. Follow up with me, keep in touch, no problem. So now step number three, after you get permission, immediately go into your CRM or your notebook or wherever you write this stuff, your leads. And this is so specific. Don't ask me why, but I'm telling you, we have it down to a science and it works. Go into your CRM. You're going to set a follow-up call for once every 3 weeks. That's the magic number. Once every 3 weeks during their modification process. All right, because you don't want to follow up too much with them because it's a long process, but then you don't want to let too much time lapse either. The perfect amount of time we found once every 3 weeks. And this is very important too. You're going to call them and text. Very important. Don't just call and don't just text. Now, when you call them, you need to leave a voicemail with your first and last name. This does two things. Number one, you're building brand recognition. They are going to get used to hearing your first and last name, checking up with them. All right. It's just simple brand recognition over the course of, let's say, 3 months, that the mod takes them. Number two, the reason why it's very important is because you're building trust, because you're doing exactly what you said you were going to do when you spoke with them on that first phone call. Hey, John, if you don't mind, I'm going to follow up with you throughout the mod process, just to make sure you don't need anything on my end or have any questions or anything. Okay, cool. Sounds good. When you say that, most people have very low expectations because there's a lot of people, let's be honest, I'm sure you guys will agree. There's a lot of people that just don't do what they said they were going to do. Just in business and real estate and life. So just the fact that you are following up with them and leaving a voicemail, because most of the time they're not going to answer, by the way, they're just busy. It's very hectic. You're building trust because you're doing exactly what you told them you're going to do. When you hang up the phone after leaving a voicemail, you need to send a text message, same thing with your first and last name. Hey, John, Bob Vieira here. Just checking in with you, seeing how the mod process is coming along, making sure you don't need anything from me. Have a great day. That's it. Most of the time, they're not even going to answer you. They're busy. Again, they're scrambling to get documents to send into the bank. It's very chaotic. But trust me, they are hearing your voicemail over and over again, and they're looking at your text for sure. Does anyone have any questions on those 3 steps? Shout them out, put them in the chat. Okay, cool. Yeah. Listen, I can't stress mortgage modification leads enough. There's so many people right now in Florida. We talk to them every day. There's so many people that are behind on their mortgage payments that are trying to keep their house. These are amazing leads and there's almost no competition on them. So the overall goal is to build a pipeline. That's what you want to do. You want to build a pipeline of these leads that you're constantly following up with. And then eventually they're going to start to drip and, come into, they're going to conform into listings for you. That's how it works. It's a system. That's what you're doing. Just to give you guys an idea here, like a little snapshot, this is my mortgage modification pipeline right now. Right now, we have around 130 active mortgage mods that we're following up with, active people that are in applications. Guys, let's say half of them get declined, which is totally possible. It's unfortunate. I don't want that to happen, but it's very likely. Boom, 65 hot leads just from that. So it's very, I cannot stress this enough. Valerie just asked, will we receive a recording? I can't take notes now. Absolutely. I'm going to send you guys all a recording of this. Yeah. But I still suggest taking notes too, because, you could go over your notes as you're listening to the recording. So definitely want to take notes in real time. And then you might write something down and then have a good question to ask. All right, let's go second level here. And then this is the last thing I'm going to say about the mortgage mods. We're going to go a little second level. Now, this bonus tip I'm going to give you, don't do this on every lead. You don't want to do this on every lead. Okay. This is just for the mortgage mod bonus is okay. All right. Let's say you're talking to somebody and you're working the 3-step system I just gave you, following up with them once every 3 weeks. And then finally at the end of their process, they call you back and they say, hey, Valerie, you know what? Thank you so much for following up with me. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it, but the bank approved our modification. We're good to go. Thank you. If this happens and in your heart of hearts, you have a gut feeling that even though they somehow got approved for the mod, there's just no way they can make their mortgage payments. Like if you just know their financial situation, you got to know them, and like you just know, you're like, wow, I don't know how they got approved, but there's no way John's going to be able to make his payments. It's just not going to happen. If this happens and you have that gut feeling, set a follow-up for 30 days later. Okay. The reason, this is how the modification works. Whenever a bank grants a homeowner a mortgage mod approval, the process isn't over. They're going to put them on what's called a trial modification period. And the trial period lasts for 90 days. If the homeowner misses one single payment, they have to pay once every 30 days. If they miss one payment, the bank pulls the rug out from underneath them. They're going to rescind their approval, and then they're cut. They can't even approve again can't even apply again for another modification. They're done and they have to sell. Again, don't do that at all because you want to be, mindful of your time, but only do that if you have a gut feeling about somebody. Allison has a question. Where can we get mortgage mod leads? Great question, because that's the beauty of it. Nowhere. There isn't a list you can go and purchase, because whenever someone's behind on their mortgage and they apply for a modification, it's actually illegal for the bank to make that public information. So there's nowhere to even get these lists from. So you're building these lists organically, Allison. That's the beauty of them. So you're building the list when you talk to a seller who's behind and they're trying to keep their house. You are building that list organically for yourself. So there's no competition on these leads. Does that make sense for anyone, or does anyone have any other mortgage mod questions? Okay, cool. All right, let's talk about one more way to get leads right now. Oh, Allison has another question really quick. So basically cold calling owners. So I'm gonna go over that in a little bit. Okay, so basically, yeah, a lot of this. Listen, if you guys are aggressively cold calling, you will get a lot more modification leads for sure. Now, that's not the only way. You could come across these leads from any channel of marketing that you're doing: letters, cold calling, door knocking, referrals. There's a lot of people in Florida that aren't, paying the bank right now. So yes, if you're cold calling, Allison, you're going to find a heck of a lot more of these situations versus someone who's not pursuing these types of leads for sure. However, be aware of them anyway. Holly said, does not make sense. How would we find people to call? So that's actually perfect, Holly, because I'm going over that right now. So there's if you guys want to go after pre-foreclosures, which I highly suggest right now in Florida, being able to help these people, it's first off, it's fulfilling because you're like a superhero to them. You're literally saving them from a drastic foreclosure on their record. And you're going to be noted after you do a couple of successful pre-foreclosure listings. People are going to start to know you as that. It's going to become almost like a mini brand. And then you're going to get a ton of referrals. So I highly suggest getting in this business. And Holly just asked a great question. So the three main sources, now guys, there's tons of sources, by the way, to pull pre-foreclosure list. These are the three main ones that I know. Number one, local county courthouse. You could, it's a lot of legwork, but you or your assistant or your partner, you could go down to the courthouse and you could pull these lists organically. Have I ever done that? No, I am too lazy to do that. but I mean, that's probably the purest way to get these leads, and it's the cheapest. Way number two, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with RedX. RedX is a platform. A lot of real estate agents use it. By the way, I don't get like paid or like promo or anything from these things. This is just stuff I have experience with and that I know of. I haven't used RedX in a while, but I know a lot of people that use it. Whenever I used it, it was really good. They have pre-foreclosures, expired listings, that FSBOs, that kind of stuff. So really, as a real estate agent, you could pull pre-foreclosures and you could do your expireds and all that stuff all off of RedX. So RedX is a good one. And then I currently use PropStream. PropStream is awesome, I find, for pre-foreclosures because it's very user-friendly. Like if you're not really, savvy with technology, PropStream is really, really good because you could literally type in your county. Let's say you're in Lee County, Florida. You just type in Lee County, and then literally right at the top, it's like a shortcut. Right at the top, it has how many pre-foreclosures. And you literally just click the pre-foreclosures, and then boom, you have your list. Super easy. So those are the three sources. Does anyone have any questions about those, specifically PropStream? PropStream too, by the way, guys, if you're interested in that, they give you a 7-day free trial. So just so you know, like you sign up and it's free for the first 7 days, so you could test it out and play around on it. But there's so many ways to pull notice of default and pre-foreclosures. Now, as you're calling these lists, number one, I'm going to tell you, it's a numbers game. Do not get discouraged if you're making a couple calls a day or a couple calls a week and you're not getting any leads. This is a numbers game. You are calling homeowners who are almost like in hiding in a way, if you think about it. They're getting harassed by their lender, their mortgage servicer. They're getting, threatening letters, phone calls. It's a very high stress situation. So there's a high probability that a lot of them just won't answer the phone if they don't know the number. So don't get discouraged. You just have to make a lot of calls. You have to hit your list multiple times, stay at it. And these are very motivated sellers. So you will, if you guys are consistent calling these leads, you will absolutely get a bunch of listings from calling pre-foreclosures. So I'm not sure if, like, I know a lot of people like to follow, hardline sales scripts. and I'm sure it works for like certain things. I would say either get rid of it completely when you're calling these leads or modify it. Whenever you're talking to a mortgage delinquent seller, you always want to make sure that the conversation is very, very conversational. You never want to sound like a robot. The last thing that the seller wants to hear in this stressful situation they're in is Bob, the realtor on the other end, clearly reading off a sales script, trying to take advantage of my distressed situation and just make money. You don't ever want to sound like that in sales, but specifically when you're talking to people who are behind on their mortgage. You'll have a much higher conversion rate if you just let the conversation flow, really just be a human being and just have empathy and listen. You should be listening on these pre-foreclosure calls. Literally like 80% of the conversation, you should just be listening. Let them vent, get a better understanding of their situation, and ask a lot of questions. Ask a lot of questions. And really, there's 4 questions you absolutely need to ask. Very important. You need to ask these questions when you're talking to these leads. Before I go to these 4 questions, does anyone have any questions on the sources, talking to these leads, anything like that? Okay. Here are the key questions to ask. Write this down, take a screenshot, whatever it is. These are absolutely crucial. You have to understand, because so many agents make the mistake of calling these lists, talking to the seller, but then they don't understand the exit strategy. You have to understand exactly how you're going to help them in their situation. Question number 1, you need to find out how many months are they behind on their mortgage. This is important because remember, Florida is a judicial foreclosure state. So that means that the bank can't just come and take the seller's property back. They have to file a foreclosure notice, and then there's multiple court dates. There's a whole process that has to go through the court system. So figure out how deep they are in that process. Question number 2, has the lender started the foreclosure process yet? Okay. Now, if you're calling a pre-foreclosure list, then, yeah, duh, they started it, but you still want to ask this anyway, just to be sure. If you're talking to someone who's behind on their mortgage, but you're not sure if it's a pre-foreclosure yet, definitely ask that question. And then question number 3, if the answer to that question is yes, they have officially filed on me, you need to know, okay, did they give you a sale date yet? Did the lender give you a foreclosure sale date? This is crucial because you need to know how much time you have to actually help them. You need to know, right? If the sale date is, what's the date today? December 8th, and it's December 8th, and they tell you, yeah, there's a sale date, for the 10th in 2 days. Like, you may not have enough time. Like, you need to know exactly when that sale date is and how quickly you need to move. And then question number 4, you always want to end with, hey, how much do you owe? What's your mortgage balance? So this is very, very important because this is going to tell you your exit strategy. How can you actually help them? Are they underwater on their mortgage? Is this a short sale situation? Or maybe they're behind on their mortgage, but they have a whole bunch of equity, so you could just list it and sell it traditionally. Maybe they're behind and it's not a short sale, but it's really close. Maybe they owe right what the property is worth. You have to get an idea of how much they owe. I'm going to leave this up here because I want you guys to make sure you have these and keep it as a little cheat sheet. Is everybody not good with this? Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk about a short sale. So what is a short sale in real estate? Now, let me tell you something. For those of you who already know what a short sale is and you're thinking in your head, I haven't seen a short sale in forever, and there is no short. Like I'm telling you right now, no matter how hot the market is, you will absolutely still see short sales, especially in Florida. I promise you. Probably more so than the rest of the country because another state, for example, California has a bunch of pre-foreclosures, but California is a non-judicial state. So there's less, I'm kind of going in the weeds a little bit here, but there's less short sales in California versus Florida, in my opinion, especially coming into the future, because the banks could just foreclose quicker. So what is a short sale in real estate? A short sale, there's two things happening in a short sale. One, they're behind on their mortgage payments to the bank. Okay. Number two, they owe more to the bank on their mortgage than what the property is actually worth. So they're behind on their mortgage and they owe more on their mortgage than the value of the property in its as is condition. So the bank in this situation lets them sell short of what they owe on the mortgage. And they avoid foreclosure. It doesn't get recorded as a foreclosure. And the deficiency, the balance that they owe them, it gets wiped away clean. So quick example, just to paint a picture. Let's say I own a property and I fall behind on my payments to the bank and I need to do a short sale. And my balance is $300,000, but my property is only worth $250,000. In this case, the bank is going to let me sell for the $250,000 that the home is worth. And that $50,000, the deficiency, it gets wiped away clean and I avoid foreclosure. And I don't have to come out of pocket to the bank for anything at closing. Anybody have questions on what a short sale is, the basic fundamental of it? Giselle said, say that again. Absolutely. So a short sale in real estate, a short sale is when the homeowner is falling behind on their mortgage, while at the same time, they can't sell their property the traditional way because they have negative equity, meaning the value of their house is less than what they owe the bank on their mortgage. So again, looking at this example, the house is worth $250,000, but they owe $300,000. So they're underwater by $50,000 in that situation. So they have to sell it for the $250,000 that it's worth, and the bank is going to forgive that $50,000. Valerie said, what if they are not behind but still want to sell? Great question. That's probably the worst situation for the seller to be in. You know, it's weird to say, Valerie, but they're almost better off to be. I mean, you never want to tell a seller not to pay ever, because that's like unethical and it's just not your business. You never want to say, hey, stop paying your mortgage. You never want to do that. But like, they're almost better off when they don't pay, because then they could get, because then it's more of a qualified short sale. Whereas if they're just, you know, let's say the value of their house is $250,000, they owe $300,000, but they're current every month, the bank probably isn't going to approve a short sale because they don't have a hardship. They're paying them every month. You know, why would a bank take a loss? So that's a great question, Valerie. And honestly, it's like, I don't really know what, you know, they might have to do some creative solution, or I don't know. Andrea said, how is the seller punished? Taxed on shortfall. Great question. I am not an accountant. I'm not a tax attorney. So take whatever I say with a grain of salt. When the seller does a short sale, they're going to get issued what's called a 1099-C. This is a form they have to fill out, report to the IRS, and then technically, Andrea, they do get taxed on it. But if you have a good accountant, there's a way to avoid that tax, essentially. I don't know like what the actual process is. I try not to go in too much detail on it because, again, I don't want to come off like I'm giving tax advice. But yeah, like a lot of time, like that tax bill does get forgiven. But technically, yes, they get a 1099-C. Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions on like basic questions on short sales? You're welcome. Any questions on short sales? What it is? Yeah. So guys, one thing, again, I want to repeat this because it's very important to like shift your mindset. A lot of people right now, especially your competitors in the business, they're not looking for short sales. Literally, they will come across a qualified short sale and they'll just ignore it. Like they're not looking for it. You have to train your brain right now to start to just be aware. I'm not saying you need to go out and like seek short sales, but you need to be aware of them because Florida is a judicial, I'm going to go back to this again. Because Florida is a judicial state, what happens is this: even though it's a really hot market, when a seller falls behind on their mortgage, the bank, in order to foreclose on them, they have to take them through a long, drawn out court process. So the foreclosure process in Florida gets super dragged out over time. As every month goes by and the seller gets deeper and deeper into pre-foreclosure, guess what? The interest, fees, and penalties compound against the principal balance of the loan, and they're underwater. They lose equity before you know it. It happens all the time. Think about this too. These last 2.5 to 3 years, we've experienced record home equity. Now, how many people do you think sitting at home at their kitchen table get a letter from their bank in the mail to refinance and say, oh my God, look at what our property's worth, honey. Look how much equity we have. Let's pull this equity out, not even refinance, just get a secondary loan against the equity. Hey, let's pull out a HELOC or get a secondary mortgage. We could, renovate the kitchen like we always wanted to do, or we could go buy that new boat that I always wanted. There's a lot of that happening too. So don't think just because it's a super hot market and prices are up and values are up, that people don't find ways in this country to lose equity. There's a lot of, also, I'm going to end with this too. There's a lot of FHA and VA buyers, which are great, tremendous loan programs, by the way. I'm a huge advocate of both of them. But the risk with both of them, as you guys know, it's little to no money down. So you're buying at market value and you're putting barely any money down. So you're buying the house with essentially no equity. One little slip up in life happens and you can't pay the bank, that's a short sale situation. So now, nothing short about a short sale. They take 4 to 6 months on average, and that's a loose average. There's ones that could take way longer than that as well. So this is another one you want to take a screenshot of. This is how you need to be able to quickly identify if you're talking to a qualified short sale lead. And there's 3 factors that make up a qualified short sale. Factor number 1 is negative equity. So let's go back to that example. Mortgage balance is $300K. House is worth $250. They owe more to the bank than their house is actually worth. They're underwater. Okay, that's the first thing you're looking for. Number 2 is mortgage delinquency. Are they behind on their mortgage payments or future mortgage delinquency? Maybe they're paying the bank right now, but they're like, hey, Bob, listen, I'm, everything's good right now, but I'll be honest with you, man, I'm, next month is coming. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this payment. That's a qualified short sale too. So negative equity, mortgage delinquency. And the third factor is what I like to call the bonus factor. I've made so many mistakes and wasted so much time when I started in this business thinking I had a motivated short sale lead. Sorry, a qualified short sale lead. Just to realize at the end of it, I've wasted everyone's time, including my own. So learn from my mistakes. You need to have a conversation with the seller on the first call and explain to them that in a short sale, they're not making any money. The bank does not allow the seller to keep any proceeds from the sale. So the seller, if the seller's only motivation is money, it's not a short sale deal. I don't care if they have negative equity. I don't care if they're behind on their mortgage. If they're only motivated by money and they have to make money, do not take on the listing. I promise you. I promise you, you will thank me later. Their main motivation, guys, needs to be to avoid foreclosure. They have to be petrified of a foreclosure at all costs. And they just want to be done with this bad property. They just want to be out from under the mortgage. If again, if they don't really care about a foreclosure on their record and they just want to get paid, don't do the deal. Don't take the listing. Questions on qualifying a short sale deal? Okay. That's all I got for you. I hope that little crash course helped. If you guys have any questions, shoot them out. But I do have a free course for you. This is a training I made up. A couple months ago, I created it. Some of you have already signed up, maybe. That's awesome if you did. Again, it's completely free. It's my gift to you. It's a little over an hour. It's a recorded training I did. I go over pre-foreclosure fundamentals, lead generation with people who are behind on their mortgages, short sale fundamentals. And then if you guys are crazy enough to do short sales yourself, I literally give you our 12-step system to complete a short sale deal, start to finish. So if you want the course, shoot me an email after this. Let me move this little box here. Shoot me an email and just put in the subject line, send me Florida Realtor course. And then I'll know you guys were on this. Can't move this box for some reason. Here we go. Can you guys see that? Yeah, there you go. So, yep, just shoot me an email if you want it. I hope you sign up, take advantage of it, and definitely stay in touch. It's my company's website. It's my direct cell phone, email. And then if you guys aren't in my Facebook group, definitely get in that Facebook group. We give awesome information. It's a tight-knit group. It's not like one of those groups that have like 50,000 random people in it. It's a private group. So we approve every single person that's in the group. I give pre-foreclosure, like lead generation tips, stuff to help your business. I have guests come on and talk about, the stuff that they're really good in, and give amazing value to everybody. So definitely join that group if you're not in it. Allison has a question. What if on a short sale, the seller ends up making more than the mortgage? And I'm correct, they still have to pay commission. So on your first question, Allison, if the seller makes more than the mortgage, so I think what you're asking is if the offer is more than the mortgage balance. If that's what you're asking, then the answer is, yeah, okay, that is what you're asking. Then the answer is it's just not a short sale. It just turns into a traditional sale. That's all. And then you said they still have to pay commission. So that would be between you and the seller, but yeah, because you're signing a listing agreement with them. So yes. Speaking of that too, guys, the really cool thing, I actually should have added this in for you guys. The amazing thing about short sales when it comes to listing them, you're getting paid by the bank. The short sale lender pays your full real estate commission. So there's no negotiating with a seller. And if they want you to take less and all that BS, the bank literally just pays it, no questions asked. So it's pretty amazing. What questions do you guys have for me? What else? Fire away, please. Irma said, how do you approach the lead on your first call? I'm sure they will be sensitive about the issue. Absolutely. Tremendous question. Yes, they will be very sensitive and, their guard is up because again, they're getting called by banks, etc. So be conversational. That's the best advice I can give you is when you're cold calling, this is just be super casual. Don't be salesy. Get right to the point. Hey, Joe, Bob Vieira here, calling about the property. I'm 123 Main. Listen, I just wanted to reach out, see if you were planning on selling it. Something super casual to the point, and then just let the conversation flow. That's why I was saying, Irma, you want to be careful. If you guys do use sales scripts, be careful with the pre-foreclosure cold calling using them. I'll be honest. Either eliminate them or kind of like change them and just make it super conversational. But that's how I approach it. I'm just, casual, have empathy, just talk to them. You're just being a human being. What are your fees again? So our fee-based model, okay, so my company has two different models. First model is our fee-based. That's where you have a listing, you list it, sell it on the MLS, and the buyer pays us a $10,000 fee on the HUD or 3%, whichever is greater. Everything is disclosed to the buyer. We have this is all systemized. Everything is disclosed to the buyer up front. The buyer factors our fee into their offer, no questions asked. And then the fee goes right on the HUD and it's approved by the short sale lender. So we have this down to a science. And then our second exit strategy will actually buy the property. So, the awesome thing is if you guys ever have a listing that needs to be rehabbed, I'm an investor as well. So if like you have a short sale where they're way upside down on their mortgage and like the property is really crappy looking and needs a ton of work, bring that to us. We'll actually do the entire short sale and you won't even have to look for a buyer. You'll bring a buyer right to the table. We'll do the whole short sale, buy it, and then you get dual agent commission. You get the full 6%. So that's what I would say probably best case scenario for you. You're welcome. Giselle said, thanks for sharing this great information. Thank you for coming. And I'm glad you found value in it. That's awesome. You're welcome. Any other questions, guys, before we hop off here? Well, all right. You have my email. You have my cell phone. Seriously, reach out to me anytime. I would just love to connect. I love to network. We'll hop on a call. Don't ever feel like you have to have a short sale listing to reach out to me. Shoot me a text and we'll set up a call. All right, guys, everybody have a great weekend. Take care. And have a great holiday. Merry Christmas too. Merry Christmas.